Three, I hope that's not the closet in your apartment.
Nope, it's not. I wish. That would be a sick use of a closet that doesn't get used. So
Right? And you could be like, hey, ladies, come into my soundproof closet.
just killed, just killed it. I don't want that anymore. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. In this episode, I'll be recapping kind of like the high-level events of the 5th Annual Elite Dodgeball National Championships that took place 2 weeks ago from, I guess, the time this aired. And here to help me do so is Mark Acomb.
That was fine. That was fine.
Oh, man. Oh, well. One of these days, I'll get it right. Maybe next time, but screw it. Let's just roll with this. Thanks for hopping on, man. It's been not even a full week has passed since Elite. How do you feel right now?
I'll be honest, man. I am depressed.
Depressed.
Yeah, it was rough.
All right, well, let's dig into that a little bit. What do you mean, like coming from a high depressed, or just not what you expected, or?
It's a weird feeling because every year I kind of get to the end and it's kind of like a big weight off my back. And it's like, oh, at last. And this year wasn't the case. This year's different in that, like, there's more work to be done. There's no rest because we got to go straight into WBDF. Here in Los Angeles, so that's a 6-week sprint to then host the World Championships. While it's a lot less teams, there's a lot more riding on it.
Yeah, I'll say the stakes are definitely a little bit higher for this next round, and just because it doesn't encompass the Elite family or the Dodgeball community, just like a select few. I can only imagine there's a lot riding on. I do want to kind of pry a little bit, but don't want to deter too much because I'm sure we'll get to that in future episodes. But aside from that, though, I was wondering actually if you got a chance to like take a breather between now and Worlds. How does your body feel like from all the walking around? Because we talked about like the marathon, and I should have pulled up my Fitbit prior to this, but it kind of coincided with what you're talking about, just a massive amount of steps. I probably looked like I needed to be on life alert from all the intensity of the heart rates. But have you physically recovered at least? You can start there.
I will say this, like, shockingly, physically, this was the best I've ever felt after Nationals. Even after pinch, like coming off of like a fairly minor knee injury, I was worried going into it, and I didn't have a problem. And then also like seeing how my arm or hands felt afterwards, especially after pinch. Like, I know like you have like swollen knuckles, anything like that. That's been all fine. It was not the craziest in terms of like mileage. Like, I think I was somewhere around like between 30 and 35,000 steps each day. Other than that, like, it's just mentally, this has been the most taxing year.
Any reason in particular for that? Was it because of the increase of teams, or what contributed to the mental change?
It's not going to be like the most popular opinion here, and it's not going to be probably not what everybody wants to hear, but like, it was a lot of drama, and it was a lot of garbage people. It was a lot of people who either created drama or created problems, or just the entitlement. Like, all I saw all weekend was Jake getting yelled at by people, Glenn getting yelled at by people, Vince getting yelled at by people. Like, I was constantly bombarded by people And it was so much negativity just around like entitlement that was so bad this year. Like God bless Jake, because we got through, for the most part, almost all of round robin in every division, and everything ran on time. People got to their shuttles. People had a great place to stay. We had a great party atmosphere. Everything in the logistical side of everything ran smooth, all thanks to Jake. Everything on the rules and player personnel and like, normal problems on the court, like it was a god nightmare. Like I'm still losing sleep over it just because there were so many things that just didn't need to be said. So many things that like just it's so hard. I know this is not like what you want to hear in your podcast of like, oh, great recap weekend, but it's like
kind of is.
Like I said, man, I'm depressed, and like I won't lie, like I haven't even had a chance to catch up with Jake. I wouldn't be surprised if he never attends another elite event again.
Wow.
Like I can't believe people thought it was okay to just yell at them like that. It wasn't cool at all. People thought that like, oh, you work for me now. Like I'm paying to come to this event, so let me speak to your manager. Like that's what everybody's like, not everybody's. I don't want to generalize everybody.
Right.
Like that was the kind of like overarching feel of the tournament. It from like the coordinating side. Like maybe people didn't see it at all, but like for God's sake, like I had to ref pinch just because things were getting out of control. Like people were screaming and yelling at refs, like yellow cards were going out left and right. Like we couldn't even keep up with the yellow cards.
So that brings up some of the questions that came up in the threads that people produce. One of them was, and I'm trying to find it in the notes here, is why was Mark reffing, I think, like the last 3 matches and finals, and then
I reffed it because a couple things. Like one, after that weekend, like nobody wanted to ref anymore. The main reason was because like if anybody else would have reffed outside of like Glenn or Vince or Jake or like Tim Wells, like nobody would have taken it seriously. Like people, like teams were so used to bullying the refs all weekend that the one, like the few people they know that they couldn't bully had to ref. And, I certainly took no while reffing those matches. Anytime a team wanted to come and speak, they were told to back up because I was talking to my refs and making the decision on what needs to happen. And so, like, that's one of those things that I saw like this weekend is sometimes a ref might sit on his heels and they, what they need to do is like when there's something close, like don't be afraid to stop play, step on the court, back both teams up to the line, come in as refs and figure out where you need to be. Like what's that decision that needs to be made, come to the consensus, make a decision and start play. And it was one of those things that could have gone absolutely out of hand, even with some of the best refs that we have. And so it was just kind of like at the way the weekend had gone, I just was not leaving anything up to chance. And I just needed, like, I had great refs on that court. Felix is well respected amongst the college guys. I'd like to think I have the respect amongst the elite people. We had basically team captains that had been eliminated do lines. So that's why I ended up reffing the last 3 or 4 matches.
Dang.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, so when I read that question, I'm trying to find who asked it because silly me.
Lucas asked it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he asked it.
I think I lost it buried in the questions that he submitted, so we'll just credit him with that one. But yeah, silly me. I scheduled the flight a little too early, so I got to miss Pinch, despite my talking about how excited I was to watch it.
It was absolutely spectacular. Like I think every year Pinch delivers the most exciting semis and finals. I would say feel free to argue with me, but year 1, Doom versus Task Force. Task Force goes to throw. Doom goes to throw. It's Nate versus 2. Nate throws, hits a player, it launches over. The other player goes to dive and catch it, fumbles it, both out. One person takes out 2 people for the championship.
Yeah.
The year after that might have been the most exciting one because that was Task Force versus Dynasty, and that was the one where the players played so hard and so intense that Glenn collapsed from exhaustion. Year 3, we've got who do we have? We have Dynasty and TC Boosh. TC Boosh had no one would have guessed that they'd be in the Pinch finals. They came. Derek Johnson was putting on a clinic of catching, super close. I want to believe that Dynasty actually had to come back to win that one. I could be wrong in that, but I remember having to watch that because it was so exciting. Last year, Corruption was the Cinderella story, who didn't win a single round robin game, comes flying all the way to the end and takes second place to Dynasty. It was a great Cinderella story run. And then this year, Dynasty had to come back against Panch or Titan, whatever we're calling them. They had to then also beat Notorious twice, which Notorious was firing on all cylinders at that moment. And you had a 1-on-4, 1-on-5. Bailey comes from nowhere. It's time to put him out to pasture and let him stud.
Kevin Bailey?
Yeah.
He's only 21 years old. He's
perpetually 18.
Yeah,
and he just has just an absolute wicked just pinch throw, and he body control.
Yeah, I mean, so Sergio Leone's he's always kind of pushing me towards pinch, and he made the comment of we're in the north, we're in the pinching heartland or pinching territory, and so I was really excited for it and really bummed that I missed out. And you mentioned Notorious. I don't think I've ever seen them before, but watching them in open, they look like they were pretty jazzed up already. So I was just wondering what they would look like. They look like
pinch. A team of linebackers.
Yeah, they're just solid bricks. They're just built. So I was excited to see how they would do, and I was excited to watch Panch or Titan or whatever. Because I made that confusion too when I was watching one of the stream games. But aside from the negativity, because I do want to get back into that though. But was there anything else in Pinch that you noticed that was just holy crap, or did you feel like it was more intense because we're in the north, or just especially since you're reffing?
I did like having 22 teams for Pinch. That was awesome. I think that there was definitely some teams who I don't want to single them out here, but it was definitely their first round of Pinch ever, and their eyes were opened of holy crap, it's a different ball game. But God, it was so much fun. There's just something I love about Pinch is that it's fight or flight, and that ball's coming a million miles an hour, and like when you catch it, you like are half excited and half regret. And everybody that was like sitting on the sideline kept mentioning about like almost how comical it was to watch, because games are going by pretty fast. Like nobody had like a kind of out. Like it was kind of a like, holy crap, he's out.
Did you might come up again, but in open, the throw that Ketchum put on Payan like stopped everyone. I think it was so insanely loud. But that
I wasn't even watching that match, but I could tell you that I was over by the concession stand and I heard the hit and I went, ooh. I don't know who that was or who threw it, but I know that hurt.
It sounded like it did. I was watching the live stream. I had like front row seats to that, so I just said, I'm just going to stay in the booth here. And I saw Ketchum running in, saw him cock back, and I was like, well, rest in peace, whoever that's going to be. And then just boom, just stop the game, stop everything. It was just so devastatingly loud. I want to ask Payan how he feels about that. I'm sure he's going to say nothing at all, but
it makes you wonder a little bit what was louder, Felix popping a ball by sitting on it or Payan getting chested by Ketchum?
I think Payan getting chested by Ketchum. Felix, I would just expect that from him. I don't even know why, but
have you seen the video of Felix sitting on the ball?
No.
Well, when you're done with this, you'll have to go check it, because it might be the greatest dodgeball video we've ever seen.
I expect no less from Felix. He's growing a reputation, or at least I think I'm catching up to his reputation. But the reason why I brought up the Ketchum hit on Payan was that how the pinch hits were they just like that?
Yeah. Everything was like big thunderous hits. I mean, I was walking across the court and I got hit square in the back by I think Brody, and that one I played it off like it was nothing. But man, that stung for a good minute. I kind of was like, all right, I'm awake now. I'm ready to play. Yeah, it was kind of those hits were intense in pinch. Actually the best hit that I saw in pinch was it was Notorious. It was Bush versus Notorious. Isaac Moss threw at Mike Riley. Mike Riley had jumped up in the air to dodge one ball, came down in a full like wide leg squat. He looked up as he got hit square in the junk.
Oh man.
And it wasn't one of those ones where like as a guy you get hit and it takes like half a second. Like he was like watching a smart car get crushed between two semis. And he just fell to the ground, rolled off. It just was like,
oh man.
It wasn't even like the like comical look of hurt on somebody. It was like broken arm look of hurt on somebody's face. And the worst part was he got caught back in like 5 seconds later.
Of course.
He hadn't even gotten up to his knees yet. He got caught in and he kind of like rolled in. He got rolled in to the back of the court, and then he made a catch at groin level. And it was the funniest thing I saw all weekend. That's for sure. And it was probably like if I had the choice to take the Payan shot from Ketchum or the Mike Riley shot, Ketchum shot all day.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, because I'd never seen a more disgusting nut shot than what Mike went through. Because I'd never seen someone like wide leg squat
just
and get
open
speed bagged.
Oh man. I'm trying so hard not to lose it, but like I can picture them just rolling off and him being caught back in, and he's just like, no man, give me like a couple minutes.
I hope the Bush guys have video of it or somebody has video of it, because like that'll be a top 10 video of like the history of worst dodgeball shots.
That could be an ESPN top 10 something. That could be what like the new Vince behind the back video that we just see over and over and over again. Man, props to that Riley guy for catching another ball off of
yeah. The worst part was just watching him catch another one, and he just no more.
Have you seen that's a segue too far, but have you seen that video clip of like it's either a soccer ball player or a volleyball player, and the guy keeps like ricocheting balls off his face?
Scott Sterling.
Yeah, like I wonder. I thought of that for a second. That's why I was kind of losing it, but God, I hope that footage is out there. Oh man, yeah. I remember I stuck you one time. You hit me in the face, and I was like,
"I'll give a wristband. I'll mail a wristband out for whoever sends that footage in if they've got it."
For the Riley shot?
For the Riley shot. Yeah. It was on the far court versus TC Boosh during pinch elimination.
Got it. Somebody's got it. They have to.
Hope so.
I was gonna say, I remember I stuck you one time, and it was comical. Like I felt bad, but you also made it funny.
That's still like I'll take the catch 'em headshot I've had. The shot that you gave me, I never had a weirder conversation with my wife because she asked why I had a shaped bruise on the inside of my leg, and it was because you hit my so hard it bruised the inside of my leg.
To be fair, you hit me in the face the game prior, so and like I wasn't honestly I wasn't aiming for you know what. I just saw you looked away for a split second, so I just like quick through.
It was the worst because I just remember how much it burned. Like it was a searing feeling I will never get rid of in my life because I still can I can remember where I was in the court. I can remember the look on your face. I can remember rolling out through the netting and just kind of scooting around on my hands and knees to try and get the pain to stop.
Yep. What was the look on my face? Was it apologetic at least?
It was apologetic.
Okay, good.
You were more confused of why did the shot to the inner thigh hurt so much?
Yep. Yeah, I'm not.
I didn't think you were cued in on what the actual anatomy of what happened was.
Yeah, I was just saw an opportunity, took it real fast. Still upset over the face shot, but then when I found out what happens, oh my, poor Mark. Yeah. Since we're on the subject of I'm definitely bleeping this stuff out, but that's still a thing. So I wanted to ask real quick, is there still a bounty for that? Because I remember you and Vince talking about that last year.
What was the bounty? That's the thing I can't remember. I know that it's Christina Demos for sure.
Are you sure?
She tried to stick a card in my back pocket at the party, and I pulled it out and I said, "No thanks, I'm good."
Very well then. The bounty was a stuff.
So someone can film them doing it.
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, they had to be caught on film, and the prize that you guys kind of almost settled on was a stuffed golden chicken. Because I'm not going to say the C word. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sure. I'll pay that bounty.
Awesome. It's anteed up. It's one of those things that's oh man, only in dodgeball. But let's kind of back this up a little bit. So let's go back to hits. Any matches that kind of play out the most, or hits, or any other actually, what was your favorite matchup that you were able to watch in pinch?
My favorite matchup to watch in pinch? I won't lie. I was either reffing or playing. I think my favorite matchup, what was the most exciting to me was probably Titan versus Dynasty. That was a really well played game. Oh, also this is gonna probably sour some people, but Final Justice versus Titan was good. It's just unfortunately the way things went down soured that game. Was this this thing led to that thing, led to this thing, which why we had the yellow card rule changed, and it ended up affecting the game 100%.
And this is where some of that negative yelling at refs and drama.
Yeah, so it was kind of discovered that in the middle of there was an we earlier that day between two teams that I had to kind of step in, and we found that with a yellow card you've got to sit a match, right, or you got to sit a game.
Right.
If we're calling 2 out of 3 games as a match, you have to sit a game if you get a yellow card. What the problem was is that if a team had 7 players and one of their players had to sit, they'd go, so what? We were probably going to rotate him out anyways.
It's not a big impact.
There's no impact at all. So now here's an issue. Now you've got 2 teams, right? You've got one team with 6 players and one team with 7 players. And both sides start passing each other. And both flip each other the birds, both yellow cards. Both teams get both teams get a yellow card. Now all of a sudden you have one team that has to play with 5, and the other team, who is just as egregious and just as bad, just rotates that player out and they have 6. Why should the team with subs be able to utilize that? Why should the team with subs be able to skate on any kind of punishment for an absolutely egregious act of yelling at the refs, yelling at other players, doing those kind of things? So that's where we decided you couldn't get around punishment by doing this.
Right.
So that's where we came in with the rule of and it was before pinch that we said, Vince, Glenn, Tim Wells, and we had to sit down and say, listen, we have a problem, because if you have one player who's got a big mouth and is, a garbage person, if they had 7 players, that player basically has a get out of jail free card to go up and cuss out the refs and do something terrible and just say, all right, I'll just sit this next game out. And meanwhile, the team gets to play at full force, but that player sits one game. There has to be a punishment. They can't get away with that. So we brought all the pinch team captains in, and we explained the new rule. It's kind of like soccer. If you get a red card, you're playing with 10 people. Just because you have subs who can fill in the 11th doesn't mean you get the 11th man back. So that's the way we had to do it. And unfortunately, what we're finding is when we have these captains meetings, these captains never tell their teams what's discussed. They never relay this information, because all of a sudden we had a situation where we told a team all right, you have to play with 5, and the captain got all upset and was like, this is bullshit. I don't have to do any of this. This, I was never told this. And it was, his teammate who stood in for him while the captain was taking a piss somewhere, they had to, and they didn't fill in their team. So all of a sudden they're mad. They're screaming at Jake and yelling at him and being completely unreasonable. Meanwhile, the player who's standing there is like, oops, I forgot to tell him. It's like, dude, own up, man up, and explain your team how you failed to relay this information that was given to you that affects something. And now your captain's yelling at Jake. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Jake never wants to do anything with an elite event again.
Wow.
That's how bad attitudes were.
And was this all during pinch, or did some of this?
This actually it occurred through the course of the tournament. Honestly, the best part of the tournament with no problems was Showdown and All Stars.
Wow. Dang. So this is probably like the
Open was okay. Co-ed got significantly worse. Women's was fine. Women know how to handle their
right.
And then co-ed no sting is where it feels like people's attitudes came off the rails. And then pinch, it was like it was the Wild West.
it just like blew up at that point. Probably. I mean, it's day 3. Alcohol is probably in the system. People are
It was like,
brutalizing each other.
yeah, and it was just one thing after another. Like, you were at round 2, correct?
No, I wasn't actually. Portland.
So Portland, everybody's big complaint was that like it was super hot, and
Right.
it was. And then round 3, everybody's complaint was that it was super hot, right? And then I got a lot of people like, asking like, are we going to have air conditioning at this place? And so this place, their air conditioning unit was like, whether there's nobody in it or 500 people in it, like it's going to stay at like a specific 71. But the problem is when you have 500 people in a venue, that body heat is actually pretty intense.
Right.
And so that machine was chugging along to keep up and keep that place cool, which it was all weekend. Unfortunately, what's the side effect of that?
Condensation and leaks.
And we had those leaks, and everybody was running up and complaining about like these huge puddles. But they weren't huge puddles. They were like 3 or 4 drops. It's like, there's a towel right there. Just take a quick wipe before the game starts, and we're good. But it was like everything was a mountain out of a molehill.
Right. Man, that's a shame.
Telling me, man.
Well, I'm glad we kind of circled back to this because what I wanted to say was I'm totally fine spending however long it takes to talk about this and get this out, because that's part of the whole recap and why I wanted you on here is for like a non-filtered, this is how it went down, all the good, all the bad, and maybe some in between. And because, I'm off in La La Land, I didn't see a majority of this stuff. And I'm sure people have selective memory if they are part of this issue. But then we all go back home and post, oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jake. This was amazing. Thank you so much for everything. Like, I think people really need to understand what you guys go through, because it's not all just this magical tournament that's all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and happy feelings. It takes a toll on the leadership. And so, I just wanted to kind of preface that if we go into more of the weeds of what happened. I did want to, what's up?
I said it was hard. I mean, even the party, like, I couldn't get anybody to be quiet enough for 1 second so that I could like announce award winners. Like, even with the microphone, there wasn't like a second of silence so that we could acknowledge, those people who won the golden whistles, those referees and the CAPS award winners and stuff like that. It was just so disheartening. I think, no joke, like I hope people thanked Jake and Glenn and Vince and Tim and Tony and Colin. I hope, because I think through the course of the weekend, I might have had 10 people say thank you this weekend.
Wow.
It was, and it's like one of those things where like you said, like we run off of those, the compliments and the people who are just saying like how awesome it is. And it's been nice to see some of these posts. I won't lie. Like, I haven't looked at them. I really like, I've tried to spend as little humanly possible time on Facebook this week, just because I just couldn't.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's why when I talked to you just before I left, I was like, hey man, like, how many days do you need before we can talk dodgeball again? 'Cause I'm sure you'll be thrilled to do so. Because I understand you'll probably, even if things went normally, you'd probably still need some time to decompress and take in all that went down. But that's a bummer, man. And I hope that people that do listen take this to heart and maybe just, I don't know, slap themselves on the wrists or just know to do better or control their player that's out of line.
Something lost in translation where, like, at the very beginning, like, we were really open and saying, like, listen, like, we're going to do this for free, but like, your end of the bargain is just being like civil and understanding, like, okay, they're going to do this work. This is something that's a full-time job for free, so that we have this arena and playground to do something we love. And that that kind of like handshake or unspoken agreement was like, like civility, like understanding,
Don't be a
like,
like.
like little things. Like, for example, like one of the questions was brought up on like um the win percentage, and that was a matter of women's was supposed to finish around robin, but we ran out of time. And so the ones that ran out of time and that had like where you had like 6 to 8 teams all having the same like win-loss records without any head-to-heads, it came down to the only way that this is going to work was win percentage in order to differentiate everything. And we even consulted with was it Kate from Portland,
Bergsgaard, I think.
Yeah, she was like, "Hey, like I'm a stats major, like I've got a degree in this," and she's like, "Honestly, the only way that this is going to work is win percentage, because otherwise, there's no way to separate this, and this, because." In years past, we're able to do, a full, a full round robin. Back in the very first year, we only had 20 teams and we did a full round robin. Like, yeah, it's easy to place people in order. But when you have, more than double that and you have to do pools, like we're able to do it for the most part, but we needed an added element. And like, my thing, the way I deal with things is we can either sit and complain about it and do nothing, or I'll take the heat, I'll take the arrows, the whatever, the shots, and just say this is a decision that needed to be made in order to move forward. Because like my thing is, I hate like hemming and hawing over something if there's no solution. So
Right.
Come up with that solution and get to the next level.
Yeah, you want to focus on the solution, not the problem.
Correct. And so that's like that should be the next Elite Dodgeball shirt. Focus on the solution and not the problem, because that was exactly what was going on. It was, well, this guy did this. Okay, let's talk about a solution. No, but he did this. I get that.
So, but my feelings, listen to me complain.
Yeah, and it's just okay. Like, what can we do? I had an instance in my game. So, for example, so we didn't have any refs. It was Riot versus Brick Squad. We didn't have any refs. We couldn't find a single ref for our game.
Oh man!
Coming into co-ed 8.5. And so they had 7 players. We had 7 players. So like Alex said, "Oh, I'll ref," and then Andy said, "Oh, I'll ref from this side." And they were like, "Hey, we'll have a nice gentleman's agreement of what we should do, in case something happens." And it was like, okay. And so we started to play, and it was something like 5-on-1. Casey on my team was the last one. She makes a catch. I come in, and I mean, this is going to sound terrible coming from me. I took a cheap shot. I think it was as Chris Wheeler was trying to get his glasses on, and I hit him without his glasses on. And we finished the game, and we had to take a step back for a second. They were upset because of that, and we had just taken a game, and what ended up being that decision is I went back to them and I said, "Guys, it's 0-0. Like we'll forfeit that game. Let's get some refs in here, because the right thing that would have happened is if refs had been on the court refs would have stopped play the minute he lost his glasses or needed to tie his shoe or do anything like that.
And that would have stopped you from probably seeing red, right? I don't think you're
Correct.
naturally the guy that takes cheap shots. You just saw an opportunity without even thinking.
Correct.
Or you're being a douchebag.
And what ended up happening is, like I said, I went back to him. I said, I'm going to go get 2 refs. It's 0-0. And we lost 2-0. And sometimes those are the things that you need to take. Even in pinch, we faced Tigers, and they had a player come in out of order and throw and get some outs. And normally that's a forfeit game. And one of my teammates noticed it, when the last person was playing on their team. And we mentioned it, and the refs were like, well, what's the ruling? And I'm like, it's a forfeit, but I don't want to take a win that way.
Right.
So let's 0-0 that. Most people will take the technicality and be like, I'll win by any means necessary, and say
tough luck, we win.
That girl broke her leg, let's take advantage of it. And it's like, there's got to be a gentleman's aspect of it too, with the level that we are. And so that was one of those instances where I didn't want to take the point via forfeit that way. We absolutely should have, but they should have been paying attention to who was in the right line in the queue. But we've seen problems this year with the same thing. And it's about how you react to those that really show your character.
Yeah. Reminds me of when Zaps didn't win Showdown because Mikey doesn't understand boundaries. He said he wanted to actually earn it. That gentleman's agreement, like that, I think people either have that or they don't. And I feel like it's kind of not a contradiction, but maybe they catch-22 because they're supposed to have a crushing penalty like that, so the captain can be like, hey, I'm going to make sure that my guys come in when they're supposed to so this doesn't happen again. And maybe that's what you have to do. You just have to enforce that. But at the same time, being I don't want to say a genuine dodgeball player, but I don't know what the word would be. Having heart, I guess. You don't want to win that way either. So it's kind of like what's for the greater good. So I can kind of see how both sides play out, but I totally understand.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, a throwdown, Chad Landrum won a game because the person used the ball and pushed off of the curtain. And Chad was like, no, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to win that way. And then ended up playing out the game for the next 5 minutes, was absolutely gassed and ended up losing. And it's just it's a shitty way to lose.
Yeah.
It's a gentleman's thing. When I'm on the other side, if I'm that hair out of bounds, that's out of bounds. I'm going to take that out, even if it means I have the chance to win for my team. No, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's
taking the shoelace out. That's the difference between taking the sport to the next level, because it's so hard to ref and it's so hard to perform at that high level and keep the sport honest. It's what's needed.
Otherwise it devolves into this madness that I'm hearing about.
Yeah, it's just it will absolutely devolve into finger pointing, butthurt feelings, screaming, and honestly, that next level is a fight. That next step, we're already at that next inch is a fight.
It's a scary thought.
And that's the last thing I want to do is drag 2 people by their ear out of the venue and say, don't come back.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't come to that. If it does, hopefully you make examples. But that's just kind of.
It's kind of the thing. What's funny is if you follow like the NFL right now, everybody calls it the no fun league, right?
Right.
Because they're not allowed to celebrate. You know, now these targeting penalties and tackling is this much harder. And it's like every time that a player is dishonest, every time that a player creates a problem, like there's only one thing you can do, which is add more rules. Every time someone decides that they're above being like a good player and a good person, the only option is to create more rules for it, which then constricts the sport, which then makes it less fun. And so, like, there's going to have to be some drastic changes made to like disciplinary measures. There's going to have to be drastic decisions made on like what the future is of Elite. Just because like I don't want this to become a league that's not fun because there's so many rules that like you can't even fart out of line.
You shouldn't be
But
able
at
to
the
anyway.
same time, like if the ones that we have in place are not abided by, if you can't be like a genuinely good person, like if you can't play the sport without cussing the other side, like it's going to either cause two things. One, we don't need you back. Or two, we're going to have to create more rules and it will become less fun. And as soon as it's less fun, people stop showing up.
So we would consider ourselves like the highest caliber athletes playing dodgeball in its most competitive sense, right? Almost like pretty much professional dodgeball. Would that be fair to say?
Easily.
So if I understand correctly, professionals that act out of line, they get fined, they get penalized, they sign, I'm sure somewhere in their contract that they will abide by these, as you said, rules. They'll have these bylaws, or they have to agree to certain things. Like you're not going to be an basically, and they get penalized for that. And I mean, if we want, I'm agreeing with you. If we want to consider ourselves the highest form of competitive dodgeball, we need to act like that. If we want to be considered up there with the professionals of conventional sports, then stop being a douchebag. Like it's gotta. I like rules, being in the military and whatnot, and I totally understand group punishment. Sometimes I think it's ridiculous, but when I understand the higher level, when people act out of line, it has to come down. And yeah, sometimes somebody acts out, and guess what? We got more rules, more regulations now, and it sucks, but it happens because somebody messed up. So, I mean, not sure how much further it goes, but I think you're on the right track. I mean, I feel like it's going to have to come to that because this can get more negative next year. It can go the opposite way. It can, we can stop that growth. We can stop that 30% increase that you're talking about because people just remember all the negativity and they don't want to come back. And so sucks to be you, man. Puts you in a rough spot, but you gotta.
It's tough. Like I said earlier, like I feel like this year is like a large majority of my time has been doling out discipline. And like, it's just, if it's not something like I'm not getting paid for, like that sucks. Like it sucks to be a guy whose just sole job is to tell people no. And it sucks to be that guy who's constantly having to tell people like, shape up. Like, this is a warning, or you're suspended, or this. And it's like, I've got to embrace that as my role. But like, it's amazing when you give an inch, and like, and this is something that I have to do for myself. Like I saw like who is it? I think it was Chad's question in the chat. Like, how do you get everybody to like you or something? What was that?
He's like, what's the hardest part of keeping everyone happy? And I was like, he doesn't. Like, you don't. It's not possible.
That's the thing is like I've always tried to keep everybody happy, and the biggest thing I've learned after this weekend is I don't have to anymore. Like, I really don't. because that's the thing is I've officially learned after 7 years of like trying to be the guy who will always come to a consensus or compromise or something like that. Like, if people won't respect that, and if they want to just yell and scream and shoo me out, then it's time to just embrace the evil.
Yeah.
It's time to just be the hammer and just say, you're suspended, you're suspended, you're suspended, you're suspended, you're suspended.
I bet you'd cut a lot of current and future out by doing that. You just have to, like you said, you have to embrace that aspect. The role that you're in, the influence that you have, you got to take the good with the bad, and you have to dole out the discipline when needed for the good of the organization, which I would think is it's beyond us, if that makes sense, and the essence of it needs to be protected, not so much your friendship with this person or this person's ego. And if they can't handle it, see ya. Go play dodgeball somewhere else. Like, don't taint this one or pollute it anymore. And I'm sure people would agree with you, man. I think hopefully this yields a positive response. Maybe more people will back you up and back Jake up and just kind of, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but be more aware of what's going on, more perceptive, and not just think this whole thing is just a love fest. And there is a lot of stuff that you guys put up with that maybe I can jump in and help out with in some capacity. And if I can just control my team, or if I can just control myself, like, maybe I shouldn't flip people off if I get mad, or maybe I shouldn't like throw my shoe at somebody. Just simple things like that. They can be, they can just feed up to the greater good. But there are some questions that are kind of relevant that I did want to kind of touch back on. And before we do that though, oh, did you have something to say though?
No, I said
okay.
Shoot.
So going back to the percentage and whatnot, so Lucas had asked, how soon will we be switching to win percentage versus points for round robin seeding? Since we kind of touched on that topic, I just wanted to kind of bring that to light real quick. If that was something that you're considering across the board, if Kate had managed to help you identify a better way to solidify round robin seeding, or just where we were with that.
I think that like the win percentage is a good idea. I do. I think that this off season, I want to take everything, and this is my mind. It's got to go through the board of the other guys as well. But like, I would like to really just kind of sit down, blow everything up, and say what's working, what's not working, and piece together like we should relook at the point system for the series. We should relook at the scoring system for round robin because it doesn't work. We have too many teams. So when a round robin is designed to come up with seeding by finishing it, like we need a system that works when you have two separate round robins or two separate round robins that don't finish because you've got 3 times the amount of teams that you're normally used to. I think that's 100% under something that needs to be in discussion.
So you brought up your board. You said the guys. Were there any women on this elite board of directors?
There was with Lisa back in the day. It's been discussed. We haven't really put forth anything with Colin and Tony coming in. That's taking up the North in terms of like taking Glenn's spot. As like the cheesy way of saying it, the ward of the North.
That's a great way to say it.
There's 2 on my list that I would love to see added.
2 females on your list?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just curious, and also I got prompted to ask that question, so just shot that in there because it was a perfect time to do so. But
who asked that question?
They would like to remain anonymous.
That's fine.
Because they don't want to get trolled, and I totally respect and think that's dumb that it would be trolled, but maybe I can coerce that person offline to reach out. And
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like I have an idea through like people who have been like genuinely helpful and active and in getting things done and also helping, and so like we have an idea of who we need to add, and it's a matter of a board meeting happening to kind of hopefully add those people
to make it happen. Awesome. So excuse me, going back a little bit to the yellow card, just because I wanted to cover this. I think Alan Thomas had asked about changing the yellow card rule at the start of pinch. You kind of covered that already. And then Bill Fisher asked what was the change, and you mentioned that because it sounded like is that how a power play works in the NHL?
I would liken it to getting a red card in soccer. Just because like a soccer team starts with 11. If you get a red card and you start with 11 and you can sub players in and out all day. But if a player gets a red card, they play with 10. They don't get to fill in that with another sub. That's
Gotcha.
the best way to put it. And the reason it's put there is because of, like, you can have, I mean, if you have a team of 7 and one of the guys throws a punch and he gets kicked out, like,
doesn't
you don't
impact you at
think
all.
that they should have to play down one for a match? Like it's basically like having a sub would be advantageous so that you can, like, if you really need to argue a call, someone could take one for the team and just go off. And it's like, that's something we can't allow.
Right.
And then at the same time, if you have that team of 6, they make one slip up, or if like 2 guys start jawing at each other and one team has 6 and one team has 7, why does the team with 7 not get penalized, by having to not play a player down? It's like I'm not sure if this works this way in baseball, but like when you see a pitcher get banned for 5 games, but it's really 1 game because they don't play the other 4 because they're on a rest rotation.
Right. It doesn't impact them as much.
Exactly. I could be wrong about that. I'm sure I'll get messages in my inbox telling me how stupid I am.
Well, baseball's stupid anyway, so it doesn't matter. They can inbox.
Oh no! If I'm wrong about anything, don't worry. I get told about it.
Oh, I'm sure. So that kind of leads into another question I received, and that was, have you considered a system like the NHL with retroactive punishment for flagrant offenses such as cheating or unsportsmanlike conduct that was caught by refs during a match, or not caught, excuse me. So like maybe talking about this after the fact or watching it on streams or.
Oh, absolutely. We actually have a system in place.
Nice.
As kind of, if you like looked at it. So for example, like cheating, like if there's a person that's blatantly cheating and they've been getting away with it, like the way we deal with it is we don't like the public witch hunt that we saw in Dodgeball Family years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So, if you think someone's been blatantly cheating, by all means, record that game. Give me proof. Because the biggest thing is someone will always run to me and say, so-and-so cheated. He got hit like off the side of his arm and he didn't go out. That's your version of the story. Because I can go to him and he'll say, oh, I didn't feel it. And, we know one side is telling the truth and one side is not, right? Show me the video and I can make an action. So for example, like, you have a player that's kind of been blatantly cheating all day. Put a camera on him. Worst case, we're going to catch some amazing plays and have some cool gifts. That's the worst case scenario. You don't catch him, but we have more footage of dodgeball. That's the worst case scenario.
Or you realize that person's honest. Like, okay. He's
or that
cheating.
person's honest now. Like, your video will help keep them honest. Or let's say the person has total disregard for your video. or the fact that you're standing on the side of the court, putting a camera near his face. They get hit. They don't go out. You bring that video to me, I can say, wow, that is a clear case of cheating. That is something that we don't need in our sport. So-and-so player, congratulations, you are suspended.
Nice. I don't know, man. If
we had an instance earlier this year where there was complaints about a player, and I said I'd be happy to suspend them. I'd be happy to. It's fine. Give me the video evidence, because I can't rely on hearsay.
Right.
Like, I can't rely on that. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, you can't rely on word of mouth, because everybody's heated one way or another. And everybody's always going to have their own version of events.
Oh, yeah.
But give me the video proof. That way, it can be dealt with. And it doesn't need to be public. That person can be dealt with privately. They can be shown. They can be given a chance to, rebut and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Like, and you're going to get the players who are like, well, so-and-so didn't take their out, so I thought it was okay to. That's a good case of saying, congratulations, you earned a suspension.
You're a turd.
We'll see you at the next, the round after,
Yeah.
Because we just don't need it. But by all means, like, record people, record matches. Give me that video footage.
Help you, right?
It can be dealt with. But if people just want to, like, sit there and point fingers, again, what did we talk about earlier? Like, you're not giving me solutions. You're giving me problems. You're giving me, like, you're just complaining about the present. I have a solution, but you got to give me what I need in terms of, like, being able to, like, effectively doing that job of taking care of that problem. Because unless I have footage, like, what court of law would just be like, well, I could have sworn it hit his shoulder. Okay, you're suspended.
Guilty.
No, it wouldn't work. Like, how would that be fair to anybody? Because then all of a sudden you're going to start having people start complaining and being like, well, I hit him in the shoe. That bounced 2 feet in front of him. Well, from my angle, hit him in the shoe. Kick him out.
Yeah. There's always, the way I see it, there's three sides to a story. There's yours, mine, and what actually happened. And cameras can really help with that. What actually happened. And I had a similar incident with, not to name names, but I do want to own up to it. It was Fortune against Notorious, and Lucas swears that he hit this guy. And I'm watching him, not watching with, like, the intent of Lucas is going to throw and hit him in the left leg, so I better catch this. It's more like I'm watching my angle, like, this is the best angle I can provide being a line ref. And I see a ball go next to him, and he continues to play dodgeball, and he's fine. So I don't call anything, and I just see Lucas lose his mind, and I'm thinking, hey, now, I have never seen Lucas lose his mind on anything. Like, he must have seen something, and I'm just, like, watching this guy. I'm like, he's not getting hit, and people are yelling at him, like, just bloody murder. I'm like, this is really, really awkward. Because I want to side with Lucas, and I hope I'm not putting anyone on blast. It was just like, from a ref's perspective, this is kind of what's going on in the minds, and trying to be partial. So I didn't see anything get hit, no call, and I later tried to pull Lucas aside. I was like, hey, dude, what did you see? Like, what are you guys yelling at that you thought you saw? And he might have been referring to that play, he might not have been, but that's just like, try dissecting the truth between that. And then I asked, I think it was Bill, if there's footage of it, let me know, just for my own personal sake. It doesn't have to be aired or blasted. I just want to see it for myself. Like, did I miss a call? Because I still can't understand what got those two teams, because, like, Fortune fired off and then Notorious fired off. It's like, there might be a fight soon. Like, this is not cool. And I want to know, like, was that a blown call on my end? Like, what really happened? So having this retroactive type of deal is good, I think, because we can all look at it and be like, okay, Lucas, you're right. It did hit this guy. Or, no, he was clear. So we can all go back to loving each other and not being heated like that ever again, because that was bad. And because I did get exposed to some of the negativity that you're talking about. I wasn't completely off in like untouchable bliss land, but
oh yeah, I got tagged and sent a lot of videos of like, congratulations, you need to get your eyes checked because you missed this call.
Wow.
Like, that's fine. Give me the footage.
Yeah, the footage to speak. I think we're good on the card thing. Alan asked thoughts on no sting being on day 3. Did that work for you guys? Y'all no sting players? Or?
I actually genuinely liked it. Usually getting to the end of day 2 was always such a nightmare. Like, did you play no sting?
No, I didn't play no sting.
But you played co-ed 8.5.
I wish I did. I played co-ed 8.5. We got knocked out early, but we stayed.
Imagine had you played everything. So open 8.5. There was also women's, co-ed 8.5, all-star game, showdown. And imagine like we finished co-ed 8.5 at roughly like 6:45, 7 o'clock. Imagine playing another 3 more hours.
No, thank you. I think we had to do that in Boston.
So I actually think, like, granted, I loved having the tournament done 3 to 6 hours earlier on day 3. But at the same time, I think it was a smart move. I think having the full day Sunday to do those 2 divisions is what it deserved. Even then, we still ran long. I think we ran until like 9:30 when we finished pinch. Thank God our hosts were ecstatic at watching what we put on. Like, I will say this, like, we were a better group than what they're normally used to with big basketball tournaments. They were like, I can't believe you guys cleaned up. I can't believe you guys like just weren't, terrible people. Like, we had to do a couple things, telling people to keep their coolers out of the area. Like, there was always still banana peels underneath the bleachers. People, please stop doing that.
How hard is it to throw that away? Like,
no.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
I get the water bottle. I can totally understand. Oh, I forgot, because I would keep losing my blender bottle thing, but I would eventually go find it. So I totally understand a water bottle.
That
but
was
like
yours?
No, I was like, whoa, it's in my bag right next to me. How'd you do that?
What's funny is like sometimes it's the logic. Like for me, like if it's got a screw-on cap, because everything's gonna get hit by a ball, right?
No, yeah.
Whether you bring like a 4-month-old baby, or your Starbucks coffee, or a backpack, or whatever, it's gonna get hit. Like, it will get hit. So, like, a couple times I had to tell a lady, I was like, please, ma'am, you've got to get these children back behind the glass. And I saw one kid get absolutely trucked.
Oh,
man. And she looked at me and I went, what do you want me to say? Like,
I tried telling you.
I literally just got done telling you. And then like the Starbucks cups, it's like, it's not a screw-on cap. So if it gets hit, it's going to explode and it's going to go everywhere. It's going to get on people's clothes. It's going to get on people's phones. It's going to get on the floor. It's going to get everywhere. And it's not going to be easy to clean. So stop taking non-screw-off stuff on the court.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, my stuff's screw-on, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's a blender bottle. Like,
but I'll also say I had a blender bottle get just blown up in Elite Round 3 in Boston 2016. It broke it. And I was like, I don't understand this. These are supposed to be unbreakable. Dodgeball's awesome. It broke an unbreakable bottle. Heck yeah, Dodgeball. But also, I'm really sad now. But you're right. It's like the Murphy's Law of Dodgeball. Anything a ball can hit, it will. It doesn't matter how much protected you think it is. It's going to find its way. It's
And it's
comedic.
funny for someone like me that has to be in the middle of everything. Like I have to be in the most easy place to get to, the center of everything, because I've got to run around and tell people where they need to be. Like I put my stuff out of the way and out of the way of danger. Any of this, because it's like I don't want to be the guy that caused a game to stop because like my coffee exploded on the court,
Right.
or like I'm certainly like I can always think of like I remember when it was like Serena or Venus Williams, like when they used to do the beads in the hair, and like I think one of them just smashed the shit out of the ball, and they had to like spend 10 minutes cleaning up the beads. Like keep your stuff to the side and get it out of the way of danger. Like the courts should be the courts, and the off area should be the off area.
Yeah, we'll get it eventually. And I think what segued into this was just having to spend extra time cleaning up after going through an entire like open division, co-ed, and then no sting. And to kind of dial this back a little bit, like, yeah, your thoughts or your move to make.
I think it worked well. I really do. I think that the change gave, because it was always weird it like being separated by the 2 nights, or like because day 2 it's kind of completing everything, whether it's all-star showdown, men's, or open and women's, and co-ed 8.5, and then you open something, and then like in a day of closure, if you will. And so having Sunday to be able to give no sting its due of both of those, and then also pinch, it's got its time to like shine, and it shined.
Yeah, and I appreciated being able to go back to the hotel room, change, and realize I still had an hour to get to the venue. Like I was already just in the mindset like, oh crap, we're so late. Like, oh, this doesn't start until 9, 8 o'clock. Like we had plenty of time. Like we're actually gonna show up on time. This is amazing. So I think that was
party.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one thing, is because like I usually have to go back, sort out the rings, make sure that like I'm thanking the people that I need to thank, like coming up with like a pseudo speech, and then just kind of like putting that stuff together. And like by the time, like I am always either the first one there and the last to leave, so every year it was like a race to like I would never be able to get any food, and people would like hand me a beer, and next thing I know, I'm buzzed and I haven't had anything to eat, and then just becomes a show from there. And by the time 2 o'clock runs around, it's like, oh my God, I've got to do pinch in 6 hours. So I think from my perspective, it was a very welcome change. I know that there's a lot of upset people in terms of having to change flights, having lost or had to like bow out of the division altogether, or needing to find last minute subs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a change. There'll be a more permanent change. Like I said, I think everything in terms of Elite needs to be up for discussion this offseason.
Well, I definitely think that was the way to go. And if it's known in advance, we can plan our flights accordingly, because that kind of impacted me too with my no sting team, kind of why I didn't play. Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is, and not to dismiss anybody's gripes, but overall,
well, the gripes were 100% legitimate, right. And it's one of those things that like when we closed registration, that was that 2-3 weeks before, I think, when we closed everything down. That's when we got to look at the schedules, and we started to break things down into pools and go, we don't have enough time. We just didn't have enough time, and there's not enough hours in the day. Like we would have had to start at like 6 a.m. on Saturday. People would have died.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have happened.
So it was taking it was again. We can sit and debate about the problem, or we can make a decision and move forward.
I say keep moving forward. In fact, Alicia Ellis asked, with the growth of Elite and the divisions being cut off for round robin, will there be a possibility of a 4-day tournament now?
Oh man, I'd rather cut half the teams.
Yeah, 4 days would be pretty wild.
People barely make it three. I've got so many photos of people passed out on the ground.
Yeah, I wish I could say I'm not one of them, but it's just because I didn't play all divisions, and I also got eliminated right away from co-ed, so I can't tell you, like honestly, like oh I'm not sore, I'm in great shape. I probably would have been. Like I think I rated myself like a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 of being sore. I can imagine though if I got to play further in co-ed, did no sting, I'd probably still be hurting. But it's like I said earlier, it's a welcome pain.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of some changes and stuff that might be on the table, and I concur with Lizzie Hoder. I hope I said her name right, but she said, I've heard rumors of co-ed changing to 3 women and 3 men per team, as well as the ball type switching to no sting. Haven't heard that part, but do these rumors have any legitimacy? And if so, tell us about how it'll shake the fortunes of all. Let's stick with the first part. Is that up for discussion? Has that been decided? Is that something that we don't want to worry about until a couple months from now, or?
So like I've had a couple people ask me about it. Like I can tell you that I've given almost no brain power to either one of those.
Just worry about that in a couple months, weeks, maybe. Not now.
Yeah, I mean, if we make that decision to move forward, like for one, like the board needs to get together and decide like what we need to do. We need to talk about the future of every division. We need to talk about the not only the viability of each division, but also the execution of each division. Like I truly think we had too many teams this year. Um, if we did something like a 3-and-3, like you would basically have 2 times the amount of open teams in co-ed, because if each open team split in half to form 2 co-ed teams, if you've got 15 or 15 open teams, you then potentially have a minimum of 30 co-ed teams. From a player perspective and a organizational perspective, in terms of like what you want to see and equality and everything like that, giving women the say and platform that they deserve, like 100% makes sense. There's going to be like I said, it's been brought up to me, but we haven't really spent any time discussing it because it didn't need to be discussed this season. Like
Right.
it wasn't happening this season, and it wasn't happening for nationals, so there was no reason to even talk about it. So it's a good question. It's something that we'll have to look at. I know if I keep it the way it is, we'll get skewered. If we change it, we'll get skewered. So we'll look forward to that.
It kind of goes back to what you said. Our last conversation, we talked about bringing cloth into the mix and just how every adjustment, every new division requires a lot of thought process. And so I totally understand what you mean when you say like you've dedicated or allocated no brain power to this, because it's gonna change more than what we think as players. Like, oh, just tack on 3 hours to another day or whatever, and we're good, right? It's not like that at all. So totally understand. So I can already tell this is going to be a pretty long episode. I'm totally fine with that. I can talk dodgeball with you till Saturday if need be. But I do want to get to some of these questions. A lot of them were really good, and I think some of them could be, I want to say like rapid fire. But let's just try to blitz through some of them real quick. We'll start with Sergio Leone's question. That was, what was the division you feel had the biggest shakeup and why?
Oh man, the biggest shakeup. Man, I would say open and women's.
Why open?
Because you had, I don't think anybody really put it to Rise that they would win. I really don't. I think Tyler Greer going down with his injury and having to have surgery. Rise didn't win an open division this year, and then coming back, and I think Doom was basically on a either 6 or 7 or 8 round, almost 3 years on the winning streak.
I think they're looking at 4th would have been this year.
Well, so Rise won the first one, Doom won the second.
That's 2015.
And then no, it was Rise, Doom, and now Rise for the national championship.
Was it Rise?
Yeah, Rise won the first 2.
Okay.
Because I remember those years. I think Rise won the regional and then won the national, and then the second year, Doom won the regional, but Rise won the national.
Okay.
And then from there on, I'm pretty sure what happened was Doom swept, and then swept this year. Would have been able to, like, I don't know if you want to call that like the Triple Crown or whatever.
I was like the
Rise
ultimate
coming
turkey.
in and winning that with the late addition of Chad Landrum, because he played with them round 3 and this that, and then like women's, like you have Money Shot wasn't even in the top 4 in the West. They come back hot in the nationals. They won nationals last year, and then Pop That, who's always dominant, and then Invasion. Like, this is the second time where they may have not done so well during the regular season, but came out and won the championship. They won it in New Orleans, and again, they've won it in Minneapolis. And let's see, if Money Shot won last year, that means Pop That hasn't won since Vegas.
It's 2015 then.
Yeah. So I'd say the divisions that were the most surprising, open and women's.
Yeah, I was I don't want to say shocked to see Rise take first. I had a feeling with the addition of Chris and Chad that it was gonna pay off in some form, so maybe top 5. And then when they won, I was like, oh wow. I talked to Tim earlier about their dynamics and how they had to make some quick adjustments to go from Chris and Chad are killing people, Tim, Serge, and Jim are closing. They're kind of sweeping up the chaos, and they must have found that really good balance to pull off an overall win, which is awesome. And then Invasion, just looking at their lineup, I'm not surprised that they took it all. That just might be me kind of, I won't say dismissing them for their talent, but I wasn't surprised there for me. For me, the biggest surprise was Space Cadets, and I think that shocked a lot of people.
That's a great one. I think that's one of the better stories of the weekend, was Space Cadets really plowing through.
That was incredible to watch, and I hate to admit this, but so I just reffed Fortune and Notorious, and Notorious knocked out Fortune, and I saw Space Cadets, who we as Grit 2-0'd in round robin, so I was like, oh man, these guys probably aren't going to go past this, and they did, and I was like, whoa. Notorious looks like a bunch of jacked, ripped dudes that are going to steamroll people, and they didn't. They just kept going, and it was awesome. It was great being able to talk to Colin right after that win, because he's super jazzed up, and it was really cool watching that happen for a team, and I think that was the biggest shakeup, at least from my perspective that I saw.
Yeah, no, it was like that was a feel-good story that got buried in the in the abyss of
fun. Yeah, I was not that I trust but verify. So yeah, you're right. 2015, Rise of Brutality took the national championship, and Doom took co-ed. So that's why I remembered something with Doom. But
All right. So let's rapid fire. What do we got next?
All right.
That
So
would be the most shocking moment.
yeah. So Abdul Saeed asked, "What was the most shocking moment of nationals to you?" I guess moment.
Oh, the most shocking moment. I'd say the most fun moment was watching All Stars.
All stars. Any moment in particular, or just seeing the nation's best going after each other?
The most shocking moment was the South feels disrespected and the South came out swinging.
Yeah,
South came out swinging in All Stars.
it was good to see that, and it was good to see that. I think they took 7th overall, or outsiders. I think they top 10 at least. I have to
Yeah,
check.
Outsiders did great.
Yeah, it was for me specifically. It was great watching that because I got to know them really well during all the recaps and during the team interviews. I was like, man, I hope these guys do really well. And it looks like they did, and I think they made a good statement with their showing this year, and I hope that it continues, and I hope that it rubs off onto other Southern teams, and they just continue to build. And Abdul also asked, and just as a side question, what was your favorite game all weekend? So maybe one that you watched or one that you got to play in, not counting All Stars.
I think my favorite game this weekend, honestly, it's all a blur. I really enjoyed Pinch. Like I was a kid in the candy shop. I loved Pinch Division. Like there was a moment where we were just getting trucked, but like coming back and winning some games felt so good.
Did you get to take some of that pent up rage and frustration and just unload on people? Or did you actually get to take a moment and not be
Not nearly enough.
not enough? You need to have like a pinch tournament just for you that you can just unload on people and you don't have to do anything. No responsibilities. No, this is
Stay
just
tuned.
nice. Perfect. Sergio asked, what was the most notable improvement about this Nationals that you noticed versus the past ones other than the venue? Venue was sick. Minnesota, Minneapolis is gorgeous. I'll admit that right off the bat, but most noticeable improvement that you can take away.
I'd say the most notable improvement that I would say was people were getting to where they needed to be better than in years past. People
Nice.
were paying attention to their schedules. They could have been faster, but this year didn't involve me like hand holding people to get where they need to be.
Good. It's a good start. Good improvement.
Like as a matter of fact, we had problems where like, Payan was like taking charge of like courts 1 through 3 and making sure like games just started, and he got so far ahead he started pulling teams from other pools, which stopped the other pools because they played so many. Like we basically had to stop them and let the rest of the tournament catch up to them. So yeah, I think I would say that was the best change.
So Pine's very efficient. He's a good court general. Because I remember that. I remember like Pine. I think you're yelling at somebody like Pine already finished his freaking pool already. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
It might have been you. It might have been somebody else.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was you. I'll just fine. I was trying to excuse you for embracing the rage, but I was like, dang, well, good for Pine. We're still gonna
Everybody knows the rage flows through me. That's why I'm the boogeyman.
let it flow. Colin Dowling, biggest surprise teams in each division. And then Alan goes and adds region. Let's just do it division. Try to keep this rapid fire. There's already a crazy thread going about states.
We'll go with Space Cadets. We'll go with like outsiders and no sting. We'll go with man, like I said, it's such a blur. And then the teams we've named before.
Did Panch or Titan surprise you at all? Just out of curiosity.
About where I thought it would.
Gotcha.
I think there was a moment where I was like, yeah, they absolutely have the ability to win it all. I'm sure there's going to be a couple people who say it's my fault that they didn't win it all.
Well,
Like I said, I got the immediate videos and you're blind and blah 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 messages, fun stuff.
good fun.
Um, uh, they were like an absolute force to be reckoned with. And I think it just came down to like that one match, and there was a momentum shift. That's all it was. I think between Notorious that day, Dynasty, and Titan, they were all equal. It was just who kept the momentum, and when momentum started to shift, who tipped the scales, like who put their foot on the gas, and who backed up on their heels.
Right. Yeah, it sucks, but it's always kind of, for lack of a better word, it's funny when somebody blames the entire match on one bad call. Like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it takes the wind out of your sails, but there's 5 other outs that took place that you didn't make up for, or as you said, you went back on your heels for.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, Sergio Lone asked, and I accidentally blacked this one out, but he asked your favorite matchup in each division Riot played. I'm going to assume Pinch. You said already it was like it was blur of not enough joy for you to unload on people.
No, no, I don't remember.
It's just a red rage. Markel Stoked asked, what state produces the best players? And then Alan went on to add per capita, and I said, whatever the that means. I'm just going to say Arizona, and you're going to agree, and that's that. So just moving on to the thread. We'll discuss that later. But I did want to acknowledge Markel for producing that question.
I mean, it's the mecca of dodgeballs, California.
Yeah, but every California team has an Arizona player.
Hey, well, let's go through this real quick.
Oh boy, I messed up. I should have said
something.
something.
No, just real quick.
All right.
5 national championships crowned. They're all within 147 miles of each other.
I would say name one team that does not have an Arizona player though on those championship teams, except for Doom.
Doom doesn't have an Arizona player.
I just said except for Doom. So
well, Rise's first year didn't have Allen.
Did they though?
I'm pretty sure they had Billy and Casey.
Dang it. All right.
And I am. So it was either one of those.
Okay.
So I would say there. Back in the day, if you had said which one, I would absolutely say Arizona. Back in the NDL days.
Oh, the good old days.
Because the LA players weren't up there yet. But like we brought up a ton of players to a high level where you guys already had players in those early NDL days. I would say, like, just look at the double Rampage team that you guys had versus like we had Syndicate, and that was it. But we've got we've got the largest pool of recreational players. And as those players, some of those, the cream starts to rise to the top and they want to take, that next step, they jump in, and then all of a sudden LA's got the largest pool of players that are, playing in Elite. I think Portland's got a good amount, but the problem with that is, like, I really don't know outside of Fortune, Downpour, and Rainbows, like, what else is out there? Is it just those people? Like, how big are their rec leagues? Like, what's that per capita? Is that pretty much it up there? Like, I couldn't tell you what the space looks like. In the north, like, it's pretty easy because you can look at the colleges and say, okay, so this is what they've got. This is what's graduating. The south, like, they're still building. So I'd say California right now, and come at me. Like,
change my mind. That's fair.
Because we field the most teams, like, in terms of like top teams. Like, I'm trying to think, like, who are the top 4 yeah, like I mean, Gridlock, Riot, Doom, Rise. I mean, Southern California is still Mecca right now, man.
Fair.
Until someone unthrones them, and like, look, even UDC, only one team out of LA, outside of LA, has won, and that was um, Team Awesome. Every other championship has been won by LA.
You have good points, sir. I can see that for now. I'm sure someone's going to dive into this, and
I'm sure there'll be like a 50-page rebuttal, and I'll get messages.
It'll be a good something to tide us over after Worlds is done with. Just to keep our brains on dodgeball. Real quick, where's Billy live now? Is it like?
I'm pretty sure he's San Diego.
Oh, he moved back. Oh, dang it! Here's my argument.
Whap whap.
Yeah. Oh well. Never mind. I was gonna say because I thought he lived in some like Pennsylvania where there's like no dodgeball. He's the only person there, and I would have said, "Boom, Pennsylvania." There you go.
Well, he was in like North Carolina or South Carolina.
There you go. For a brief moment, South Carolina had the best dodgeball players per capita or whatever.
That's true. That's funny.
Emilio Veliz Jr. asks, "What was your best moment in Elite?" So if you can step aside from all the stress, yeah, like if you had one good moment, just you're just like, yes, I'm happy now.
Oh, might have been the party last year, or
I wonder if you meant this year. My bad. I meant like all of Elite Nationals for this
all
round.
of Elite. Oh, wait, this Nationals?
Yeah, I think that's what he meant.
Oh man, the best moment was postmating foods to the pool.
Was this any
The
specific
Friday
night or just
night.
Friday night?
Yeah.
Postmates is amazing. Tim Wells asked about Pinch on the East Coast for a friend.
Well, Tim, you're in charge of the East.
I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, dude, how about you just tell me?" So we'll leave it at that. He can.
Well, those players need to actually show up and play if they want Pinch. That's it.
Fair enough. Hopefully this doesn't dig into the weeds too much, but Sergio asks, how close are we to potential relegation system, like in the Premier League? I don't know what that means.
So close I can taste it.
What does it mean?
So, for example, in the Premiership League, there's, like, think of it like there's an A and a B, an A level and a B level, or even like the minor leagues and the major leagues, right?
Right.
So let's talk about it in terms of like baseball. So if you've got a top 10, if you got 10 teams in the A League, you got 10 teams in the B League, at the end of the season, the bottom two in the top league go down to the B League, and the top two from the bottom league get upgraded to the A League.
Okay.
So, for example, like a famous one is it was 2 years ago. Leicester City was a bottom feeder in the B League. They were literally nobodies, and they had a good season and got put in the Premiership League, and then won the whole damn thing. So, I mean, I guess what you would say when it comes to dodgeball is, so we've got like, the dooms and rises. They kind of like live in the A spot. And so if you've got logistics would need to be figured out how to do this. But I think this is a good way to like kind of clear up the cream of the crop, and you kind of like earn your way into the big show. And if you're in the bottom of the big show, you go back down to the, qualification rounds, if you will.
So you can stay hungry.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. So you said so close you can taste it.
I want it badly.
Make the board, make it so, because that'd be really cool.
Every time you really think about it, if we've got like, 20 teams in the West, you create an A and a B, and then you do like a qualifier. so that like you've got to qualify to get into A league or the A tournament. And then, if you got, dead last or third to second to dead last, or the last three spots is an easier way of saying it. You have to go back through qualifiers. And those top three teams like are on their way back into the, A spots.
But you still have a competitive B league that you can wreck or do well in. You're not necessarily penalized with, okay, you can't play this season or you can't continue. Like you still have, yeah, I like that a lot actually. That's
There's something to be said about like when I was saying like 20 teams is too much. In an ideal state would be 10 teams, one basketball court. That way, a round robin would take 3 hours. Elimination would take 2. That's 5 hours. And then you could do, that multiple divisions. Whereas, like, if you have 20 teams on that single basketball court, would take over 12 hours to do. So, if you instead do 2 small tournaments instead of 1 big tournament, maybe that's a way in.
Yeah, I hope that happens soon. That'll be cool. And like you said, kind of help with some of the logistical aspects. And you're saying we have too many teams, you got to cut some, but that could be the solution, right? Not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Anna Wynn asked, I think we might have covered it, but just to rapid fire this one, why is ranking determined based on game wins first? Why not base rankings on match wins first and game wins second?
Well, because the way we do a best 2 out of 3, like, you get 2 points whether you win or not. Like, it was always, if you have a team we always looked at it from, if I win 2-0, like, that's impressive. I get my 2 points. If I lose 0-2, that doesn't look good on me. But if I at least took one, that shows I'm better than the 0.
Right.
So, like, say there's not a team with a perfect record, right? So Doom, let's say like Doom's in one pool and Rise is another pool, right? So Doom wins every game except for one, and they lose that one 2-1. And Rise wins every game except for one, and they lose that 0-2. You got to give that nod to the team that at least won one game off of the one they lost to.
Right.
That's why we always took it from the points rather than matches, because the points are going to be the same as the matches anyways. Because it's still 2 for a win.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me, and that like still awarding the team that managed to take one instead of getting blown out because it's.
Yeah. Is a way to combine those 2 things into one, because like the match win is the same as what we already do. It's adding that extra element in there to help even differentiate further.
Gotcha. And I think this might answer Lucas's follow-up question. Has that been the method this whole time, or has that evolved over the years?
It's actually been the method since day one.
So I figured, I don't remember it being anything different.
It's even from the very first Elite 8, when you would have been on Rampage, right?
Close. I would have been. Yeah, no, you're right. I would have been on Rampage for the Elite 8.
Because Rampage was still around.
Yep.
That one, yeah, it's been that way since day one, just because, like, we come from the NDL where there would have been like, all right, here's 10 minutes, just round robin each other and how many times you won and pull names out of a hat.
Oh, God.
It's like we wanted to get rid of time. Time and time is an element in dodgeball I'm not a fan of. We can go into that on the next podcast.
I can't wait. I'm already thinking like, oh man, I can't wait for that episode. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, it's gonna be brutal. So I needed a good way, and like the 2 out of 3 creates an element of like, always being able to complete a match. And it's it's that odd number, so you can always separate things in terms of like the wins and losses. It just makes it so much easier, and it's less beating up the worst team.
Yep. Just racking those points if you're playing against a crappy team, and I hate having to stop a game. What's up?
It's dumb. It's a dumb way to do things. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I hate having to stop a match. Like I'm always like, let them fight. Like just let it play out, man. It's gonna take 3-5 minutes tops, but let it run its course.
Who wants to watch a boxing match that goes through 12 rounds and no one gets knocked out?
I mean, I paid for.
Who really goes, oh boy, I can't wait to see the decision? No, you want to see someone plastered on the mat.
Yeah, that's why I paid a lot of money for that one guy that makes all the noise with his mouth. Colin, the guy that went MMA to boxing. Oh man, brain's failing me right now.
Well, even in MMA, like who really wants to see that decision? Well, he took him down like 5 more times. It's like, no, someone needs to get submitted or someone needs to get knocked out.
Yep.
Nobody wants to see the split decision because what's ultimately the thing that happens in a decision?
Like a
People
draw.
will always complain, well, that ref, he scored that card wrong. Like all I can remember is the Pacquiao fight, and they just go, "Oh, well, that was bullshit." And then there's inquiries and all that. Like that's not how dodgeball is supposed to get played.
No. Yeah, it was McGregor against Mayweather. That's what it was. Feels like a long time ago.
That was terrible.
Yep. And I was like, well, you know what? Kudos to you guys for taking my money. That's on me. But.
Exactly. Now, if someone had gotten knocked out, imagine how amazing the following days would have been, because that's all you would have seen was someone laying down on the mat.
That's why I paid for it, because we wanted someone to win. We wanted boxing to win. We wanted MMA to win. It was such
and honestly, dodgeball is the closest thing to those, and that's what people don't realize is that there's no other sport where your entire intention, you're not there to score points, you're there to knock the other person out.
Eliminate the team.
Eliminate the team. Like it's not, oh, how many goals did you score, touchdowns or bases, and it's just when you introduce that element of time, it's just you want to see that. You want to see someone win the game. You don't want to see someone wind the clock down.
Which happens in time matches, and it's terrible. It's so frustrating.
I get there's an added excitement element, but like, good Lord, no one wants to see, like, I don't want to see someone sit in the back corner and block all day just because they're up 3 games with a minute left.
I hate that.
I'd rather see that team lose the next 2 games, or like, lose by 2 games by completing that 3rd one. Anyways.
Yeah. I'm going to requote.
I'm slowing you down.
No, it's all good. I was going to requote the guy from Godzilla. Just let them fight. Like, this is how it's got to be. Well, going back to taking money from people, Lucas asked, how can we get one of those sick Elite baseball jerseys that the executive team was wearing? Or is that something like you earn?
Wait, what is he talking about?
You had the Elite baseball jersey that looked pretty good.
I have no clue what you guys are talking about.
You're lying. All right.
That's the added element of like unobtainium, because there's just something that we've always got to do for our guys.
Yeah.
Because like we said earlier, it's the most thankless job to stand there and get screamed and yelled at. And there's people who really love the sport, who really love the brand and what we're doing. And imagine like the most passionate people about it are the people who are on the council, the people who are doing this for you guys. And so like they're the biggest people who are the fans of it. So that's a thing where like we can't pay them, but what we can do is say, here's a token of like my appreciation for everything that you do for the sport, I'm going to give you something that everybody else ogles and says, how can I get that backpack? How can I get that shirt?
Brilliant.
How can I get those, whatever it is?
That's good. I like that. That's you have to earn it, so
They've
to
got to be
speak.
given something that says like, hey, I'm official. Listen to me. I need your respect and your time. And then two, like I said, there's something that makes them feel special and say like, this is something that no one else has and no one else can get.
Yeah, and if you want it, step up, help out. Maybe you'll get something next year, but not this one.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Like the belt. That's the hardest thing for me to give away.
The belt.
I love that belt. And to give it away, like, oh, it hurts so much. Like I want that belt. But like that's something that two people have.
Yeah, I like the exclusivity and the earning factor. Like you have to earn it. That's it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Sticking with Lucas, how did you feel about the live stream coverage, and what were priorities for Elite in the coverage?
So we've done like feature courts in the past, and we had people complain like, "Oh, this is getting too much coverage. Oh, that's getting too much coverage." It's an expensive thing. It is literally the most expensive line item in the budget, and it doesn't come close.
Hmm.
Our goal this year was, last year we had, the one feature court in the corner, and so this year it was kind of a decision to sacrifice the feature court to be able to stream 4 cameras and get as much. So we streamed 4 cameras, and then Nick Factoran brought in the 5th.
Nice.
The goal was to at least try and get as many games as possible covered. And then, when we did get to having the feature court, like that's on Saturday, that was the goal. So I haven't seen any of the footage. Like I said, I've kind of been avoiding everything dodgeball. So I haven't seen the footage. I know Eric is an absolute professional, and the guys at Mad City are great at what they do. So I'm easily assured that I know the footage is great and that we've got a mountain of it. And I know at some point someone's going to go through and tag like all the games that were on those courts and at what times, hopefully. So, yeah, the priority was to just showcase as many courts as possible. Even if it was a more bare bones, rather than having the graphics and everything we've done in the years past.
I took a photo of David Tates and I think Lucas commentating, or maybe it was David Tates and Bill Fisher commentating, because the setup was so professional and so like felt like I'm watching Sports Center. I'm watching like the panel right before a football game. And the reason I snapped that photo was it was just like, man, like I was here for the first Elite West one back in 2013 with however many teams that showed up. We talked about this in the previous episode, and look at this now. Like this picture kind of to me symbolizes how far it's come, where you have people wearing sportscaster headsets, we're streaming games, all kinds of crazy madness going on in the background. Like it was incredible. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it just ups the ante and everything, and just makes everything that much better. But again, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. But I really do hope people do catalog that footage and people use that, because and one of the things that of all the teams and players that I've interviewed, aside from practice and dedication and hard work, one of the biggest takeaways for teams to get better is to review footage. And people that have made significant improvements have said, we watch footage together as a team. And that is such an important resource. So I would maybe throw down some money for some grit footage to see how we can improve. But if it's out there, I'm gonna
So,
find it.
like I said, I think on the last time we were on, like Ryan Haley on my team records every match, and he goes through and he does the stats, and
It's
we're
awesome.
able to kind of look at it, and that's something that like over the year, like we progressively got better, um, and we're able to kind of like break down other teams so that we have like a game plan going into it, and again, having footage of a player that cheats, if you give me the footage, I can take care of it.
So many
So
benefits.
it's if every team were to film like their corner, if there was like a even if like every team had two GoPros and they put it on a corner and the other team put two GoPros on, we'd have full coverage of all games, all matches from all angles. Like, can you imagine how honest players would have to be?
Oh, so you remind me of something. When you were saying this guy's a cheater, let's film him, let's get all up in his face, and there's a camera on me because people are so convinced that I'm going to cheat. I would really seriously think about who I am as a person to draw that much attention that people think I cheat so badly they're dedicating a camera to me.
Exactly.
So I
And
mean,
if you remember you were at the very first Elite Eight, right?
no,
That was the one in a small gym. It was just 8 teams. Yeah.
I missed that one. Oh, so I would have been on
Okay.
Rampage, but I missed
So that was one where like I pulled in a bunch of favors. I with a bunch of cameramen, and we had one, two, three, four, five, like six cameramen running around, and it was kind of a thing that we talked about in the beginning of the tournament. And so we basically had a cameraman for each side of the court
Hmm.
and one in the middle. And I said, guys, like this, there's going to be no chance to cheat here because if you cheat, one, you will get shamed. Two, we will post a video of the worst cheats, the highlights or whatever. And everybody was afraid of that. And honestly, like I would love to see, and I don't want to do any kind of like the public witch hunt, but if every team like got on board, like even if you didn't have GoPro, but you get like the off-brand model because there's plenty of them.
There are.
Like if there was four cameras on every corner, if there was four cameras, one on each corner, like the likelihood of people cheating would be much less because, like I said, we're gonna have to drop the hammer on people.
Yeah.
And if they're not being honest, we will have the footage. We will drop the hammer. And there's got to be that element of like, oh, well, I play to the whistle. Well, that's not good enough because if it's reviewed after the game and you were determined to be found cheating, like you will be suspended.
I can't stand hearing I play to the whistle like that. Yeah. I agree.
I play to
Cameras.
the whistle is the number one way to let me know that you're probably a douche.
Yeah, and that you're totally okay with cheating and not respecting the integrity of the sport. And that was where I was looking for like hours ago. It was not the essence. It's the integrity of the sport. Like if you can't be a person of integrity, I totally get if you think you're good because they're definitely close calls. And there's balls like may have hit my toe in the ground, and I look at the player. I'm like, did that hit me, man? Because I respect you as a player to let me know that hit me. And sometimes it's that got you. I'm like, okay, I'm out. Or no, you're good. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Now I can play and feel good about myself. Like,
and that's the hardest. The hardest thing is like, as someone who's like, I hate using the word commissioner, like as the head, and still as a player, like I have to be the most honest person in all of dodgeball because the second I don't take a shoelace or like the strike of a match off the elbow, like that's when shit will go absolutely out the window.
oh yeah, everything is done, gone.
Exactly. So it's like I take those close ones. I had one guy of the weekend be like, "Oh, I didn't think I hit you at all," and I was like, "Nah, you got me by like the hair on the tip of my elbow." And he's like, "Why would you take that?" And I was like, "I have to.
Because
I
it
have to
freaking
take
hit
that
me.
out." Like, we like the council, like they've got to be the people that set the example. Like I know when you were on Team Evil back in when we did the last tournament when we hit was it Tucson?
Yeah,
Were you at that one?
I mean, it happened. You did.
Yeah, so it was at Tucson, and it was Team Evil versus Riot, and it was Dave versus Mason.
Oh.
And it was shaping up to be an amazing battle.
Oh, yeah.
And Dave stepped back like just half a centimeter out of bounds. And I'm along the back line. The refs didn't see it. The line judges didn't see it. The players didn't see it. The people in the stands, they didn't see it. I stepped on the court and pulled Dave off.
Yeah, I remember that. That was,
and like everybody wanted to see that battle. Everybody wanted to see like who's crazy.
Who's gonna do the crazier thing that's gonna win this?
Yeah. Who's gonna like try and like ball up their shorts and throw it and like confuse the player into thinking it was a ball? Like, who knows what would have happened in that match? But you know, like that's the game. Is like we got to be the most honest, and I have to like pull my players sometimes and explain to them like this is how it works. It's the blessing and the curse.
It's the integrity of the sport, man. That was, I mean, God, we wanted to see that, but you made the right choice. If you're gonna have rules, you got to uphold them, and you can't make the exception, no matter how badly that's the scenario wanted to be played out. God, that was funny. Oh man, that was funny.
I would pay right now to see Mason.
I was just thinking, like, what would it take to recreate that? Just hey, Dave, Mason, practice for a couple weeks, and then just do this for our sake,
let
please.
Him go at it.
Yeah,
just put 2 men, 1 cage, 5 balls.
Oh man, that'd be a great event to watch.
That would be pay-per-view, no time limit.
Who's crazy?
And someone will get knocked out.
Hopefully. At least it would play out to the very end. No matter what happened, Dave suicides Mason point blank.
I think that's literally the only time, like, what I love about Mason is Mason's the only person to have ever bitten someone in a dodgeball game.
I mean,
he bit me in the when I suicided him. Very first tournament.
You can't get within arm's distance.
I know.
So
I've also never been suplexed at a tournament.
Yeah, I've been body slammed a few times. I'm like, dude, I'm your captain. Like, okay, so real quick, when we played with Team Evil as Mason, we equated it to, and you may get this reference, you may not, Lord of the Rings. When when they're in the Mines of Moria, God, people are gonna think we lost it at this point. But they bust out, the orcs bust out with a cave troll, and he's in chains, and you're like, they bust out the cave troll, he starts wrecking people, he starts wrecking the party, but he's killing his own men at the same time. Like, that was the risk. Like, we had a cave troll, and that was Mason, and sometimes it worked to our benefit. It was beautiful. He would destroy people, and sometimes I would get body slammed. I'm like, dude, I'm your freaking tail. What are you doing to me? Like, stop it.
It's Blazing Saddles. Let's give him the Mongo. Mongo just pawned in Game of Life.
Yeah. God, that was the most profound moment of that whole movie. Oh, God. Oh, man. For people that don't know Mason, he was the Catch 'em before Catch 'em. If you can imagine, Catch 'em is more civilized of the two. That was Mason.
Mason had just so much talent because, like, he threw faster between his legs and behind his back than, I want to say 98% of people throw forward still.
Yep. Gotta get him out.
I just remember him snapping a ball so fast between his legs that, like, before you even had a chance to register that where was that release point, it was already hitting you in the face.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was a freaking wild card. I'm gonna text him after this, but like, dude, people are still talking about you.
Hey, I'll contact Dave. You contact Mason. Let's make this happen.
In some form, charity. Something has to happen.
Charity.
San Diego's not that far. We can meet kind of halfway-ish.
Wait, is he in San Diego?
No, I like San Diego. Oh. It's 5 hours for us.
All right. We'll make it happen.
I'm speaking as if I'm still in Tucson. All right. Well, that'll be a fun segue. Let's see if I can just get, because there's some pretty good ones that came up that I think might bleed into the OG discussion episode that we're kind of hinting towards. Let me see if I can just pull one more good one. We already talked about from Lucas, what was your favorite moment on the court or off the court? And that was your Postmates moment. Nobody bother me. This is my food. Leave me alone. Yeah, there's some good ones that I just kind of want to maybe leave to the threads. Let me see how we can make this end on a positive note. And we'll start with Sergio saying, not a question, but thank you for all that you did for the Nationals to be a memorable experience for myself and all that you've done for the community as a whole. I'm now inspired furthermore by the level displayed in other regions and look forward to 2019. And I was going to ask, is there anybody that you would thank? Because as I said, we're Facebook tagging people as they come to mind. I'm tagging like you, Vance, Glenn. I'm sure I left out people. You mentioned a Colin stepping up. Are there people that kind of operate in the shadows that you want to blast or say thank you towards? We can kind of start there. Just any that might come to mind.
One I didn't get a chance to thank earlier was Jeremy Stevens in the South. We had a venue fall apart on us due to like double booking and like court schedules, and Jeremy like made himself available, and he found us a great court that fit more courts than we anticipated. We were able to do 4 courts, which was a new thing in the South. So Jeremy Stevens was not only awesome, but was able to like send him the nets and get all that stuff. And he handled all these logistics, and he's just a super, super helpful guy, great guy. He was walking around. I want to say he was on Rage this weekend. Okay. Or, man, I can't remember which team he was on. I'm pretty sure he was on Rage. I could be absolutely wrong, so don't hold it against me. But Jeremy was fantastic. Enough cannot be said about the usual suspects like Jake Mason. Like nothing, like we don't deserve him. We don't. I can't remember who said it best, but someone was just like, yeah, like we don't deserve him. We don't. You guys don't deserve him.
Was that Brendan Tickner by any chance?
Like we don't. And then Glenn and Vince, like they have got to put up with you guys, and they've got to put up with me. Like that's an element that they don't, they've got to go through. Is they've got to put up with me, and I'm kind of a matter of a fact guy, and so sometimes like I rub people the wrong way. So thanks to those guys. Colin and Tony stepping in. Tony helped by going to the East round this year to help Tim Wells in his round 3, which was going to be contentious because how crazy rounds 1 and 2 were in the East. That round 3, it really came down to like any team could take the championship, and what we saw was GOAT come out on top, Anarchy come in second. The team that was like the runaway was Brick Squad, ended up not even getting top 3, I think. So, thanks to those guys. Thank you to Kate Cairns helping out with everything she does. Like a super big thank you belongs to Amanda Ashley in the East Coast, because she basically was just chugging through the women's division in the East. Thanks to both Kathleen and Marie in the South, they asked me at the end of last year at Boston, they were like, what's it going to take for us to get a women's division? And I said, well, it's going to take work on your part to get women for a women's division. It's like, my job is to hold a tournament. Your job is to get people to like come and play. And so, they went from having, 4 teams of 4 to 5 teams of 5, and then 6 teams of 6. And so, those women deserve like a big round of applause for making a women's division happen. And then, the girls in the North, we're getting there. Like we just had our very first, no, that's not our first actually, because we had ones way back in the day, but getting a women's division started in the North. So, thank you to all the women who I know my reputation with the women's division was very strained at best. And I know there was a lot of grumblings about Mark doesn't care about the women's division. Mark doesn't care about this or that. And it's, I wanted to make sure that they understood, I do care about it. I do want to change that notion and do better about that. and generally give them the spotlight they deserve. I'm the first one that went to UDC and said, absolutely, you would be making a mistake if you don't have a women's division. And it ended up being one of the most exciting things about UDC. So, big thanks to all those women who helped organize, help run the tournaments, because it's quite impossible to be able to like play, run open, and also run women's. It's physically impossible. So, thank you to those women who were kind of behind the scenes and doing great work in terms of like making sure that happens. And I hope the women this year had fun. We had a great turnout. Other thank yous, Tim Poon is always like, he's given us a great tool with the website, and we have a great scheduling system. It's all thanks to him doing work for free. And then, Brendan Tickner, he won the belt for a reason. This is not my full-time job. Like, I don't make any money off of it. It doesn't keep a roof over my head. I have a wife. So Brendan Tickner stepped in at a crucial moment where, Vince has got a job and kids and rec league and all that kind of stuff. And Glenn has got everything going on in his life. He's got job and friends and family and everything like he's got to take care of. And then, myself, like, things got in the way. Like, I'll be the first to admit that balls were dropped this year. Things got bigger than we anticipated. It got too big for us. It really did. And in my mind, it absolutely showed in nationals this year. And the poor people like Jake Mason that had to put up with it and kind of keep a stiff upper lip and keep his chin up. He did a great job of and did an amazing work. We have to so that's where Brendan got the belt, was, in that moment where we're trying to keep track of like who is a USA member, who's registered on a roster, who is paid or not, who is like any one of these things. Brendan came in and while it wasn't very visible, he came in and he was helping me do all of that in spreadsheets. And he was also doing, helping formulate emails so we could chase down, here's 6 emails you can send right now to these 6 people, all written. All I had to do was copy paste and send to the people that needed to take a test or needed to register for USA Dodgeball. So Brenda did so much work on the back end of it that unfortunately nobody got to see and really give him the recognition that he truly deserved. So those are the people that have really like stepped up in terms of helping out, Serge in the West, like helping us secure the San Diego gym. I know everybody hates that gym now, but Serge does a lot in order so that we can have a place that's big enough for us. So those would be the big thank yous that I would say. I'm absolutely sure I've forgotten 50 people, but those who did help out, thank you for getting us through this 2018 season. This was definitely the most trying personally and professionally. It was a very difficult season.
There's definitely going to be growing pains, and that's awesome about Brandon. I had no idea that's what I thought he was responsible for, like securing venues and some administrative stuff, but not to that level. So,
oh yeah, what he was doing was nothing short of just like I feel guilty the amount of work that he put in so that everybody was either confirmed or had taken ref tests and making sure that we had everything that we needed. Brennan was absolutely key to the season finishing right.
Very cool. I kind of wanted to shout out Lucas for the stats, those sheets, and I think it was Relina. Was she the one that like compiled the final standings for each team? Like I've never seen that before. That was awesome. And then obviously Dominic for taking it upon himself to film, I think like every single Elite event and hopefully compiling what's going to be an amazing documentary that I think.
Well, it's because the documentary is not just, it's not about Elite. He followed so many aspects of it. He followed, a team in each region for Elite, but he's also followed people who went to go play the WDA. He
Right.
followed the trials for the WBDF. And so, I think in my mind, it's going to be an overarching documentary about the sport of dodgeball. And hopefully it's not, broken into like, there's this side and this side and this side and that side, and this side doesn't like this. And I hope that it's actually a celebration of the sport.
That's what I'm hoping too.
That moves it forward and says like, so the person that goes see it in the theater or pulls it up on Netflix or whatever goes and says, there's a whole other world here that I can get involved in, and then have, it'll be easy to find those tools to like, through USA Dodgeball or whatever to find what they want to do.
That's what I'm hoping for. I know I put in the comments, like one of the things I think a lot of dodgeball players has been hoping for, craving, is like a legitimately serious film exposure of some kind of dodgeball. And I think he's the one that's going to make it happen. So,
well, he's certainly got the footage.
Yeah. She's got
as a person who literally works in film, and my job is taking writers and massaging their work into something that's a cohesive story. Like, he has a lot of work ahead of him.
It's gonna be awesome. Well, I think that's all I got. I mean, we'll probably go on for another hour, so I kind of want to stop while we can before we actually.
I'm gonna say sorry for your 2.5 hour podcast.
Don't be, dude. Please, I do not make any apology for the length. They'll go as long as I have to. The only reason why I'm thinking we should probably stop here is because a lot of stuff's going to bleed into the next one, and if that goes 3 hours, fine by me. If people can't sit still,
come out firing in that one, man.
Yes, I want to say like this should be a gloves off, like no holds barred kind of deal. I have like a little agenda of some of the high level things that we should touch on.
You have to bleep it, because I noticed you, like, I felt bad this time. Like, I've been swearing just because I'm still in that mind space.
You got me cussing too, so I think we're
okay. All right.
I think we're even.
I didn't know if you're trying to keep this like PG or anything, because I know if you're like, with our old podcast, we would swear, and we didn't get dinged by Apple, so.
I'm pretty proud of the clean label that I got from Apple from iTunes. So I will defend that vigorously. And
got it. My bad. I feel like there should have been a disclaimer, like, Mark, your language and attitude is unacceptable.
You're fine. Lucas so far has been the worst. That guy has a potty mouth. Oh yeah. I mean, you tell him not to do something, he will do it. It's like the Lucas factor is what Alan said. Oh yeah, he said.
Wait, you're not messing with me here.
No, I think actually, you know what? Let me back up. So intentionally, Lucas had, I think, the most bleeps. In fact, I had to change him to shame bells from Game of Thrones just because I had to make fun of it. Yeah, it was like he wasn't like swearing to.
You need to get me and Lucas in a podcast and just have us we'll make it sound like a symphony.
Have a swear count. Just beep beep beep. Yeah, no, it's all good. I think bleeping stuff out is actually kind of funny too. So sometimes I'm like, ooh, I get to bleep this one out. This is fun. So no worries.
I know I had a good section back there in the beginning, which would probably just be like,
It's like what Mark actually said here was, I hate dodgeball right now.
Or it's not far from the truth.
Yeah. Actually, we'll leave it on that. So do you hate dodgeball after all has been done? I see there's a lot of opportunities to improve, a lot of things that need to be done, a lot of evil you got to embrace, but we didn't break it yet, did we?
Do you want the real answer?
Kind of threw myself out there, so let's hear it.
A lot of time needs to be discussed about the future of the sport. and the direction it's going to go, if the direction it's going to go. Um, like this year was pretty rough.
I'll was gonna say, does the roughness um overpower the positive? Because I imagine not all 500 people were like that. I imagine it's like maybe consolidated into like 10 to 15, 20 tops.
Definitely more than 20.
Wow.
Um, but in years past, there's always something super redeeming, whether it's a wonderful moment at the party or, like an overflowing of gratitude or something that's happened in the past. And this year was basically, let's punch them in the mouth and leave them wondering why. That's what it felt like to us.
Dang.
It was pretty bad this year. I won't lie. It was a lot. If I'm being truly honest with you, I don't know if there was really a redeeming moment this weekend.
That's if that's how you feel, that's totally, I don't say acceptable. Definitely not the note I want to leave on,
Like
but
I'm hoping that bridges weren't burned with people I work with.
wow, getting real. That's good though. Like, because I again kind of preface this a little bit with I'm off in La La Land. Everything went really well for me. For me though, like I'm saying that as a very selfish person. I didn't see a lot of. I caught wind of, maybe witnessed little tidbits here and there, but I didn't see like the full barrage of beatings that you guys received. And so, if this episode may seem negative or may seem like a venting session, this might actually have to be aired because of that reason. Because there's a lot of stuff that I think even I still to this day take for granted. And so, if that helps combat that in any way, if that helps turn the tide of where this is going and wakes people up, or just causes people to be that much more aware of what's going on because it's a detriment to the sport and the integrity of this thing that we all love, then I'm more than happy to have had that conversation with you and bring that out of you. So I appreciate the honesty.
Thank you. Yeah, like I mean, I hope people really thank Jake. I mean, as you said, like you feel like you didn't notice anything, and that was on the back of Jake, keeping everything running, keeping everything on time, making sure we finish everything.
Taking things in stride.
That was all Jake. I mean, if I take any credit of it, it's refing the last 3 games of pinch. Like whoop-de-doo. That did nothing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So I mean, a huge debt of gratitude needs to go to Jake and Brendan and everybody that helped out. And I want to leave on one last thing, because this is something that I've seen recently, and maybe it's just me and the way that like I operate, and the way like I kind of feel is I get a lot of, like there's people who always come up and like thank me for what I do, and like Glenn will be sitting right next to me, or Vince will be right next to me, and they thank me, and it's no, this is like absolutely an even share job. Glenn puts as much blood, sweat, and tears, if not more, than me, you know, on there, and so does Vince and Tim Wells. Like, so like maybe this is asking too much, and maybe this is me being petulant. Like, I would love to see those people who are truly grateful really spend the time to say thank you guys rather than thank me. I've seen myself get tagged in some posts Uh, but I don't see those guys tagged. And like that's one thing that bothers me is because like while like sometimes if you want to call me the face of it, like that's it. It's just the face. That's not where the work is coming from. So like really, if you want to thank me, make sure you're thanking those guys at the same time.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
like for me, it's always just incredibly awkward to receive any kind of praise and watch those guys not get it.
That's a good point. And I just kind of recounting. I definitely see that happening in some of the posts, and I could see like I don't want to say it's just ignorance or perception, but maybe it's just not knowing. Because again, going to Brendan Tickner, no idea he was responsible for
Yeah.
that depth of.
And that's like, I mean, how do you really?
How do you blast that, right? How do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's not tooting his horn, saying, "Look what I did for everybody. I'm amazing." Say, thank me. And obviously, that's what the awards are for. And maybe if we just shut up and we're quiet.
That's kind of like what those gifts are for. Like, the baseball jerseys everybody likes. Like, that's my way of telling them, like, you're special to me. Like, and that you'll wear this, or people will see you with that and say, like, oh, like he's one of the decision makers, and like we want something like that. Like he's done something to earn that. Like that helps a little bit, but like at the end of the day, like when the tournament's like, don't thank me. Like thank those guys or all of us together. But it's sometimes just disheartening to see like when someone comes and does say something, like a big thank you, and it's like they don't say anything to them, and I just feel it's terrible. It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, it's good of you to recognize that, and not absorb all that praise and glory, and be willing to share it with.
This year was absorbing hate, so
yeah, you took that part. I'm talking about the good
I'll
stuff.
take the hate all day. Don't hate on them. Like hate me.
It's like I feed off
That's
of
my
it.
job is to take the hate.
For sure. All right, man. Well, like I don't want to sound like a promotion for the next episode, but I'm really looking forward to just saying F it. Let's just dive into this. For anyone that's listening and wants some more info, just real quick, Joe Colella, I can never say his name, never be able to. Coella, I guess that's one. I can't get Acomb right, but anyway, he approached me in round one saying we should have a chat about the good old days, because I think he was referencing when me and Tillman's talked about like, yeah, let's pack up 5 people in a van and pray for the best. Hopefully there's going to be a tournament.
But like, were those the good old days? Like we'll save that for the time. We'll save it for the discussion.
So that's exactly what it is. Like it's so easy to get sucked into that black hole of nostalgia and good old days.
Right,
so that's,
I'll let you finish.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
just write it down. Save it for next week. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So when I say the OG panel, that's essentially what we're going into. But I also want to incorporate, since we'll have you on, let's just talk about the NDL. Let's talk about the NDA and WDBF. Did I say NDA? Yeah, there was an NDA. Let's talk about the WDA and just see where that goes. So if anybody's interested and curious of what we actually had to go through to get to this point, to where I have my little old man gratitude post on that.
We can go through all the Grand Canyon State games,
yes.
the NLA, the NDL, the LADS, the Tucson, the AZ Dodgeball, the Phoenix Dodgeball.
Yes, let's
the Chick-fil-A tournaments, the Dodgeball Nation. We can get into that.
It's gonna be a good time.
Oh man,
it's gonna be a good time.
We're gonna yank some skeletons out of the closet.
Dust them off. All right. Well, I think I've got you in a good mood, so we're going to end it there. If you're interested in being on that panel, have questions, hit me up. It's going to be fun. But
if you started playing dodgeball after 2011, do not apply.
Yeah, you're not allowed. You don't have a say. You have to, like, 25 or 2005 to 2007. This is where we want. That's a sweet spot, I think.
I think you go 2009.
Okay. I'll that's fair.
Because 2009 is where the shift happened, and anyways, we'll get to that.
Awesome. That's gonna be fun. All right, man. Well, we'll stop it there. Alrighty. Well, I wasn't expecting the conversation to have so much of a negative tone, but as I said to Mark, if that's what needs to happen to have a true recap, especially from his point of view and his perspective and what he was exposed to, I'm totally okay with it. The point of the episode obviously wasn't to bum people out if that's what happened, and I hope that's not the takeaway that you got from this, if there was one. I hope the takeaway is to just be more aware of what is going on around you. If you hear a teammate shouting, if you are one of those people that are shouting and you're contributing even in a small way, from leaving a banana peel under the bench to flipping the ref off or yelling, and you're just adding to that negativity, just try to stop. And I'm definitely more than guilty of this. I was a little pill in the round 3. I was just a frustrated old man getting out on stupid things, and I realized that that's not me, so I try to stop. But I can only speak for myself when I say things like, hey, try to watch out for your teammates, try to watch out for your captains, try to look out for anything that could damage the sport and where it's going. It is on such a great track right now from my old perspective of being a dodgeball player since 2005, and to see that there's a slight, or maybe stronger than slight, damage going towards it, it's really disheartening. And I really think that this episode might have served a different purpose than recounting the awesome events that took place. That's what the panel is going to be for. That's what the individual interviews are going to be for. So I'm totally okay with how this turned out. That all being said, definitely looking forward to talking to Mark again and just talking about those good old days and talking about what is truly at stake, coming from people that have seen dodgeball evolve from the barnstorming days to what it is now. So I really hope that it's not just a bunch of old men yelling at kids. I just hope that it really shows the development and progression and growth and spirit of dodgeball, and really helps rejuvenate some of the older guys. Mark, thank you so much for hopping on. For giving me 2.5 hours of your time. Again, I make no apology for the lengths of these episodes. They go on as long as they have to. So that being said, I'm just going to leave it at that. Anyway, if you're still listening, thank you so much for doing so. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. I didn't get to all of them. There's some that are going to carry over to the next episode with Mark, outside of the elite recaps. But as always, thank you for everything, guys. Hit me up if you have any questions, qualms, concerns. I'm an open book. At least I try to be. So on that note, have a great rest of your weekend, and have a good night. Oh, man. Keeping that. That is for sure going to be the opening. Acomb.
Yeah,
Acomb.
there you go.
Go f it up, but all right. Let's just go, and 3, 2, 1.